So we were batting this back and forth in our very extensive pregame meeting. And, I don't know if we fully answered it, so we'll bat it back and forth on the show. This 2-game set between the Yankees and the Mets, who both had, kind of like kissing your sister 4-game sets. They split a 4-game set. Both teams need to do better than that. But who is this bigger for? Now, I'll lay it out. The Mets, there's 7 days to the trade deadline. Now, whether the Mets go big, go small, or go and start trading people, I think a lot of it depends on how they do in these 7 games. Now, I don't think that should be the case because the National League is bad. The Mets have been on a great streak where they have the best record in baseball. Let's see. In the last 44 games, they're 29-15. So even if they have a stinker and a stinker this weekend, I still think that they should bolster what they have. But I think it's important. I think it will depend on how far they go. Now, they come into Yankee Stadium, beat the Yankees twice, and then they beat the Braves over the weekend. If you're David Stearns, you got to be serious about, let's make some really significant additions. And one thing I would tell Met fans, you don't want to sacrifice the future for the present. Well, I don't really always buy into that because the future is a maybe. The present is a definite. And remember, all the players that they got when they unloaded all the veterans last year, not one of them was acquired by David Stearns. He might think they're terrible.
Right.
He might not. He might think Luis Angel Acuna is not a good player. So if he trades those guys, it could be because he said, you know what, I don't like the deals they made. So that's one thing. The second thing, the Yankees. Yankees didn't have an overly impressive 4-game set against the Rays. For 2 games, their offense was shut down. For 2 games, their offense exploded. They had 5 home runs yesterday. Soto had a great game. He's had an unbelievable 4-game set against Tampa Bay. But the Yankees have to start winning series, and they've won 1 series, the one at the end of the first half against the Orioles, in like a month and a half. And you got swept by the Mets at Citi Field. So, Dom, we'll start with you. Who's it more important for, the Yankees or the Mets?
Clearly, to me, it's the Yankees for a bunch of reasons. Number one, I think anything that the Mets do is going to be to try to make the playoffs in a year where everybody thought they were going to take a knee. And the value of going to the playoffs for the first time in a while, that would be for the first time since 2016, and to then use the ability to go to the playoffs to win over free agents where I think big money is going to be spent during the offseason. So I think they want to make the playoffs, and you could talk about they want to be the Arizona Diamondbacks. I get that's always a possibility, but that's also no way to bet. I think you want to try to build something long-term, make the playoffs. I think that's the Mets' goal. Try to hold on to this wild card spot. They're not going to win the division. Just get into the playoffs. I think the Yankees are making acquisitions to win a championship. So when the Yankees are playing, they're a game and a half back of the Orioles for first place. Yep. The Yankees have the best run differential in all of Major League Baseball. They might have been struggling, but they did enough early in the season that they've been able to survive their struggles now and still believe that they could be easily the best team in the American League. Because if they could win the division, they would be ahead of Baltimore. I think they're better than Seattle. I think they're better than anybody in the Central Division. So even though the Yankees haven't won since 2009, they're competing for a championship. I think the Mets are competing to try to make the playoffs and see what happens. And I think you're going to see the deadline show that. I think the Yankees are going to be very aggressive. I think we may see them trade some major prospects to try to win now. I don't think the Mets are going to do that. I think they're going to make acquisitions, smart acquisitions, that are going to help them solidify a playoff spot. But I don't think they're going to have anything huge happen, because I think they're in for the long haul here, where the Yankees clearly are about and should be about this year. They're the better team. I think they're in a more navigatable league. And I think they're competing for a championship where the Mets are competing to just make the playoffs.
Well, the Mets league is navigatable, too.
Well, only because
other than the Phillies.
But and listen, I think the Dodgers are going to be fine. All right? I think the Dodgers know they're winning their division. I think the Dodgers are a very good team. Sure, anything can happen, but that's no way to bet, Michael, right? When you're building a team, you want to be able to build the best team. and say, we can win a championship because we're the best team. Not build a team to say, hey, we can make the playoffs, and hey, who knows? Look what the Diamondbacks did last year. Maybe on some fluke we can beat the Phillies. Maybe the Dodgers will get beat. We won't have to go through them. Like, that's nice for fans to root for, but if you're building something, you got to give me something more concrete than what ifs. And I think for the Mets, there's a lot of what ifs. The Dodgers are a clearly better team. The Phillies are a clearly better team. And I think that's what you got to try to navigate through. Is there anybody clearly better than the Yankees?
No.
So they can look and say, maybe we...
Let me amend that, though, because I don't want to sound like Yankee boy.
I was going to say, that does sound weird given the moment.
Right, because the way they've played, there are a lot of teams better than them.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, at this moment...
If you take... You can't, and you shouldn't. If you take out the first 70 games, this team could be beaten by anybody, and they've proven that. Got swept by the Reds.
My question... Guys,
and the Reds just got swept by the Nationals,
guys,
so...
Words matter. Michael says that. I said clearly. Now, we can obviously debate,
at this moment,
is Baltimore better?
At this moment, they're not.
I mean, are you talking about just in the AL?
I'm talking about the American League.
Okay.
Now, you could say, well, Don, I think Baltimore is better because they're a game and a half ahead, and they've had a better regular season head-to-head. And look at what the Guardians are doing in the Central Division, and look how the Astros play against the Yankees in the postseason. I'm not saying, of course, it's debatable, and of course, you might be able to come up and win an argument to say that there are better teams than the New York Yankees, especially the way they're playing. But can you say clearly? No. In the National League, I mean, clearly the Dodgers are better than the Mets. Clearly the Phillies are better than the Mets. I know the Mets played well against the Dodgers head-to-head, but you know, guys, when you look at the Phillies, you look at the Dodgers, they're built to win now. They spent the money. They've got the team. They're equipped to go out there and win. The Mets were equipped to, hey, maybe we could surprise some people and make the playoffs. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just you are what you are, and then you serve that. And if you can get better, you can get better. But I think the Yankees go into this game tonight and the game tomorrow, trying to step towards a championship, while the Mets are trying to step towards trying to make the playoffs. And even if the Mets got swept, I don't see a lot of great, who's going to beat them? Are the Padres much better than the Mets? The Pirates who have a minus run differential? So I think the Mets can survive it because the teams that are chasing after them are I don't think, very good.
Well, first of all, the Mets schedule gets a little tougher than it has been. And the Mets did what they're supposed to do against a light schedule. They beat up on people. Now, let's see what they do against the Braves this week. And the Braves, they've lost important players. So what will they do this weekend? And the Mets are going to get back their ace. On Friday, he's probably going to start.
Right.
So that's a big thing, too. But if they get blown out in these two games, and then over the weekend they don't do well against the Braves, does David Stearns change his marching orders? That's all I'm saying.
I don't think so. Because I don't think anything that happens is going to change how aggressive they were going to be. I think they're going to be. It just came down to, are they going to be buyers or are they going to be sellers? That's, to me, I think what they're saying in the Met offices. Are we buyers or sellers? I don't think they're negotiable degrees. I don't think they're going to sell off, with just dumping people. They're not going to do that. And I don't think they're going to make a major splash that's going to affect their future. They will tinker. They'll toy around to try to make the right moves to get better. But I don't think they're going to do anything like Herschel Walker-ish to try to solidify that. I don't think that's what Stearns wants to do.
Well, this is interesting. So you're saying, and I agree, I don't think a make or break series for anybody, but I think it's an important series for both teams.
Yeah, of course.
So you'd say that's an important series, important game for the Yankees tonight, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I want to give you, that's why I said this toward the end of the show yesterday. I hope it didn't get lost in, the avalanche of words that we throw at you. Yankee fans that are upset that they're not winning consistently enough for them. I want you to take a look at the lineup that they're sending out against Jose Quintana tonight. And then tell me you should be upset if they don't produce, okay? Here's the Yankees starting lineup on 98.7 ESPN, brought to you by Bigelow Tea. The Mets isn't out yet, but this is the Yankees starting lineup today. It's not Murderer's Row. Leading off the DH, Jahmai Jones. Then it's Juan Soto in right, Aaron Judge in center. Then, cleaning up, is the first baseman, J.D. Davis. He hasn't played in almost 2 or 3 weeks. I have to look for sure. But the guy has been on the IL, and he hasn't played. He's cleaning up tonight. He's the guy protecting Aaron Judge. Anthony Volpe's batting fifth, had a great series against Tampa Bay. Gleyber Torres batting sixth. Alex Verdugo in left field bats seventh. Then Carlos Narvaez, he of one major league at bat, is the catcher batting eighth. And batting ninth and playing third base, DJ LeMahieu with Louis Seal on the mound. That's the starting lineup today in a game that everybody would agree, whether you say it's more important for the Yankees than the Mets or vice versa. In an important game, that's the lineup the Yankees have to send out.
Also, there's work
Yankee fans, when they get upset, well, why aren't they winning more? It's got to be Aaron. It's not Aaron Boone. It's the roster right now. J.D. Davis is your cleanup hitter. I mean, who are we kidding? Don, who are we kidding here?
This isn't the voice I want you to use on the comment, by the way. Not going to work.
And by the way, I'm getting a lot of feedback. And true, I mean, Mets made the playoffs in 2022, but obviously the way it went down, it's easy to forget.
And playoff of
Padres. But that's why they need to make improvements, because this is see, if the Mets miss the playoffs, Michael, you're disappointed. But hey, you weren't expected to do anything this year anyway. The Yankees can't mess around. Like every game the Yankees play is going to be more important than when the Mets play, because they can lose Juan Soto. They can't afford to miss the playoffs. They can't afford to not be competing for a championship. And that roster right there is a reason why they have to go for it, Michael, because what they're running out there on a daily basis is not championship caliber, or at least not, or feel like it's got the best chance to be championship caliber in a year where they got to win. Is there anybody else, and maybe the Astros, but they've at least won quite frequently. I don't know what the Twins and Guardians are thinking, or what the Mariners are thinking, and the Orioles are still very early in the process here. Is anybody in a I gotta win or else mode than the Yankees in the American League? They're not losing some big free agent. They're not going to have egg on their face if they don't win a championship. The Yankees feel like that's going to be the case, especially if they lose Juan Soto. So doesn't that amp the pressure? Doesn't it make every game they play seem bigger?
Well, if you take a look right now, if you feel like wading into these waters, Yankee Twitter is out of its mind over this lineup. They're calling it a punt lineup. It's not a punt lineup. They're trying to get a lineup against a left-hander. Well, they don't have great right-handed hitters right now, other than Aaron Judge.
Doesn't punt, Don, imply when you use it
that you're giving up?
You had other options, and you gave up?
Well, they do have other options for today, but here's what I would tell the Yankee fans. And this, I'm not trying to do it, guys, because it was the open of our show. But this kind of throws cold water on the whole Subway Series. This weekend, the Yankees have a much bigger series against the Red Sox, because the Red Sox can be a team that could, if things go sideways the next few days, could all of a sudden knock the Yankees into a third-place team.
I don't, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I hate to be, Charlie cliche here, but they're all important. Like,
I get it.
If you lose these two games, and these two games would have been wins number 96 and 97, and then you end up with 95 wins, and the Red Sox end up with 96, this two-game set blew it.
I know, but as I said, you're going up against the left. You're giving yourself, I guess, the best chance to win. But at the end of the day, Michael, what's a bigger series, Yankees-Red Sox or Yankees-Mets? Then, after that, you're taking on the Phillies, one of the best teams in baseball. So when you start looking at the schedule for the Yankees, I mean, that gets tough. Like, where in the pecking order do the Mets land against, having to play the Red Sox this series? The next series you're going to be playing, a really good team in the Phillies. And then you get, I think, a layup against Toronto, because Toronto's awful. But that's not until August. So right now, Michael, these two games, how are they compared to the 3 against the Red Sox and the 3 against the Phillies?
I think they're all important. But I mean, these two are just as important against the 3 against the Phillies. I know what you're saying against the Red Sox, because Red Sox had gained ground on you directly.
Well, that and the fact that the Phillies are for a better team. But you're right. In the grand scheme of things, they're all important, Michael, but there are degrees. Right? I mean, we saw it with the Mets. I mean, the Mets could have had Severino pitch against the Yankees, but they felt pitching him against the Cubs was the better move.
And they could have had him pitch in this one, too. And you know what? They were lucky they had him pitch against the Marlins. They scored just 1 run. They won 1-0.
Right.
Because he was great. That game's important.
So, I mean,
just like this game's important for them.
But to answer your question, and I guess you agree, these two games are much bigger for the Yankees.
I would think I'd say they're bigger. I think they're big games for the Mets too.
Well, like you said, there's only a handful of them left. It's hard. It's crazy how quickly the season goes. We're all under 60 left, right? Where the Yankees are.
The Yankees are exactly 60 left.
Yes, that's not a lot of baseball.
The Mets are 51 and 48.
Yeah,
so that's 99. So they have 63 left.
So this is like a little over 2 months of baseball left. We've got a lot. So all these games become important, but there's going to be varying degrees of importance. And as far as anything changing between now and the 30th. I don't think anything that happens with these two teams is going to vastly change the directive for the 30th. I think the Yankees have to go for it, no matter how they play over the next 7 days. And I think the Mets are going to be on the air of being conservative, no matter how these next 7 games go.
And just to put a bow on it before we take a quick break.
Please do.
So people are up in arms about this lineup. But what I've been trying to say, okay, so if you didn't run this lineup out, I know the thing that's really torquing people right now is Jahmai Jones, who hardly plays, and J.D. Davis. Well, if it wasn't them, it would be Ben Rice, who I think is 4 for his last 44, 1 for his last 16 in a shorter period of time against Tampa Bay, lefty against lefty. And then it would be Austin Wells, who started 4 games in a row. You can't have a catcher catch every single day. So if Narvaez is ever going to catch, it's going to be against a left-hander. But my point about all of this is this. The roster is not dangerous. That's why when Luis Severino said it's a 2-man lineup, yeah, a lot of it was made out of that when he said it in a friendly text exchange with former teammates. But prove him wrong. Prove him wrong. It's not a 2-man lineup. Go out and rake today. But they're hamstrung right now. There's no Rizzo. Rice has come back to earth. Stanton's still coming back from the injury. The starting pitching hasn't been good. So, I mean, you could scream all you want about Aaron Boone. He's not a magician. It is what it is.
Well, what would they do if Rizzo came back today?
I think he'd start at first base because Ben Rice is 4 for 44.
But we don't know how much better he'd do.
We don't. But you know that the history there is that, in 5 years, 5 of his career years, he had 32 home runs each year. So unless he's completely lost it, you could get magic for a month and a half. I don't think he's even close to coming back, by the way. They said they're going to give him an X-ray on his arm in 2 weeks, so he's not even close. So that's something we don't have to worry about.